Hello. Right, I have here a pan of very much boiling water, which I hope you can see. No? Can we go to the other pan? Other flash across. Yay. Can you see that's boiling nicely? I have a little bag of madder, which I am going to throw into said pan and prod, and hopefully you can see colour materialising. Not quite so easy as another thing. Oh yes, you can see the colour there now. Okay. I'm now going to throw in a piece of wool cloth, which hopefully is going to take on some colour. Well, at least that's showing you what there's colour in the pan, isn't it? So, okay. Have a bit more boil. We want a nice vigorous boil on this recipe. So it takes half an hour, which is why we've started with this, and then I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing. So I shall put a lid on that temporarily just to get it back up to the boil, because I want it to boil for the whole period. Take my gloves off. Okay. So now I would like to do some screen sharing. If I can. No, can we try that? There we go. Try that one. Share. There we go. Slideshow from beginning. So. Hello. I had this problem before. My computer doesn't like to share from the beginning. Okay, so I'll bring that one up. This recipe that I am doing here, oh yes, we're back up at the boil now. You see, we've got a nice rolling boil.
Give me a chance.
Give you a chance. I don't know whether they can see that. Jill, is it possible to spotlight both my screens, please?
I've spotlighted the Mulberry Dyer, and we can see the screen, what's it called, PowerPoint on the other screen as well.
Okay, that's fine. Just me that's got the screen up. Okay, so you can probably see that this recipe comes from the Plictho of Giovantura Rossetti from 1548, and he says to dye wool and cloths in red. For each pound of wool, take 4 ounces of roach alum and boil for an hour and a half. Wash it very well in clear water. Then after it is well washed, take for each pound of wool 4 ounces of madder and make it boil in clear water. Throw in the madder when it is about to boil, and then the wool, and let it boil for half an hour, stirring constantly. Oh, I better stir it in a minute. On washing, it becomes... Oh, we're about to boil over. Thank you. It becomes well dyed, and that is red after washing. So here we are trying to get this red, and just like to point out that this recipe actually goes against every rule that we know these days, because you're not supposed to boil madder. Because if you boil madder, it goes brown. So we're going to see whether we have a brown at the end of this. I must remember to keep stirring it every so often. No, I'm going to leave it open so people can see it, because it is boiling. So, does everybody know what roach alum is? We will move on to the next slide because my slideshow isn't playing. So this is what is known as roach alum. This is the picture on the right hand side. What looks like an upside down barrel is a roach, and alum was processed in the 16th century, mainly by the Romans, well, the Italians. The trade was completely controlled by the Pope at that time, and it came from the Teufer Hills behind Rome, and it was basically a shale that was this sort of Great. Well,
Move
I know if I can do that.
Okay, can do that, yeah.
I can't. Can you see whether it's in the right place?
Yeah, we can see it fine.
Okay, so that's the grey shale. Now I have to be honest and say this has not come from the Toyfer Hills. This has come from Ravenscar, but it's the same thing. So this is alum shale, and it comes out of the ground. It's like an open cast mining type situation. It comes out of the ground this grey colour, and then it gets put into a clamp like you're making charcoal. So you would put some brushwood in, then put the rock over it, and then put clods of earth and completely smother it so that it can just burn and burn and burn. And there's naturally quite a lot of oil in this shale. Yeah, I'm just, are you back on that one again? I'm on that one, hello. So it just burns for about 8 months. After 8 months, the aluminium sulfate that is actually in that shale becomes soluble, and the shale, we're going to the red bit now. That way? That way?
Yeah.
There?
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it's gone red? That means it's burnt. And as it's burnt, it's made the aluminium sulfate soluble. So they washed water through the clamp, and that took the aluminium sulfate into a holding tank. Now, if you look at the picture on the left-hand side of the screen, you've effectively got the fire, and then you've got the tank, and then you've got things, the water running off. And then to finish it off, they would add either burnt seaweed or stale urine, or both, a bit of all sorts, and then evaporate, pour it into the roach and evaporate the water off. So roach alum was very specifically this type of alum that was used in this particular recipe. Yeah, roach, sometimes called rock alum. John's trying to tell me it's sometimes called rock alum. So that's what the recipe is calling for. Now, I did do the mordanting beforehand, obviously, as we only had the half an hour. I think we're getting a pretty pink colour. So, but we're getting quite a nice colour there. So I'm going to move on to my next slide. No, I'm not. No, I'm not going to move on to the next slide yet. So actually, in the 16th century, just to add to the story, we had a problem because Henry VIII fell out with the Pope. And so we in Britain could no longer get the roach alum that was needed. And so if you travel around Britain these days, you will find places that have got alum in their name, like Alum Bay on the Isle of Wight or Alum Rock in Birmingham. And it's because they were trying to find their own alum during that period. And eventually Thomas Challoner did so up in North Yorkshire, around Ravenscar and Whitby and Robin Hood's Bay. So that's where our industry started. One of the reasons that we don't boil madder, I believe, is because the madder that we get now is differently processed to the way it was processed in the Middle Ages and through the 16th century and onwards. So I have here different forms of madder to show you. So here I have some madder root this way. There, okay. So this is the actual root that has been dried. This actually comes from America, but we grow over here in Europe as well. Most of the madder came to Britain from the Low Countries, which is kind of the Flanders area, going round through the Netherlands and Belgium and northern France, round where we are at the moment. This is ground madder that we get now. Can you, that way? Can you see it? It's got bits in it still. So it's quite finely ground, but it's still got some bits in it. But the majority of madder that we get these days comes like this, chopped. And when it's chopped, it's just literally dried and chopped. And historically, they used to take the outer husk off. They used to dig up the roots, steam them, dry them, and then knock the outer husk off, because the colour is just underneath the outer. It's like we peel our carrots and things like that. And it was always sold very, very finely ground. And I don't know if you can see this madder here upwards. Can you see that? This madder is very finely ground, and this madder is over 150 years old. And it comes from an area of France called the Sorgue Valley, where they used to do the major industry of processing madder through the 18th and the 19th century. We very luckily got to get hold of some of that madder. So going back to that one, we're going to have another prod. So I think that we need to be processing our madder better than we do to get a really good colour. But you can see we are getting a colour here, and it is not brown. I'm sorry, but it's not. So what I would like to tell you about now is that we are planning on doing some online courses. So we are going to do a selection of courses over the coming months. They will be live online, so filmed like this on Zoom. And we're going to cover living history type courses. So if you've got a group or a historic house or whatever, and you would like to know specifically about period dyeing, then we can tailor it to exactly what you want. Or we'll do beginners through to advanced and cover various topics. So that's some ideas, you see, of what we can do. Madder is my favourite dye, I have to say. I'm a bit passionate about it, even though I don't like red. It's not my favourite colour, but it's my favourite dye. How long have we got? We've still got a few minutes left, haven't we, before we have to take it out. So what I didn't tell you about this is you may notice that my madder is in a bag. I've put it in muslin so that it doesn't actually float around in the pan and stain the cloth as it's dyeing. It's something that I've always done since I started dyeing, because if you put your dye stuff in with what you're dyeing and the dye stuff touches, it's spots, you get marks. One of the simplest dyes to do is onion skins. We don't actually know whether onion skins were used historically, because the dye chemical that's in the skins is also in many other plants. So the researchers who've done the analysis can't actually pinpoint and say, oh, that was definitely dyed with onion skins, or that was definitely dyed with tansy, or that was definitely dyed with St. John's wort and things like that, because it's literally the dye chemical that they're analysing. But onion skins do give a really nice colour. Unfortunately, it's not terrifically light fast, but it's also not light fast. It's wash fast, so you can wash it and wash it and wash it, but if you go out in the sun, it will fade. Very kindly, it will fade back to white. So you can always re-dye it and do it again. And it's probably the simplest one for people to do at home who want to try having a go at dyeing. And then once you've done that, you get bitten by the bug and you carry on. So I think anybody want, I was going to say, does anybody want to ask any questions about what I'm doing? It is 1950. Silent.
Did you want to just, Debbie, did you just want to tell people about how long your courses last?
They're still in the planning stage.
Oh, well then.
But in principle, there'll be 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, but we'll break them up into, yeah. But we also do Turkey Red, which is a 5-day course. And Turkey Red is a very, very special dye.
Can we see? Oh, they want to see the pan.
They want to see the pan. Yeah, it's kind of gone a bit off the boil now. I'm probably, I know.
Claire O'Shea, you have a question if you want to speak up. You raised your hand, so do speak up.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, did the lady mordant the fibre before she put it in with madder?
I did, yes. I
And
did
what did
say earlier that I'd had to mordant before I did this because the actual cooking of the cloth with the madder takes half an hour. So that's what I'm doing here. So
Right,
it was,
sorry,
the mordanting bit was done earlier.
what mordant did you use?
Alum.
You did use normal
I
alum.
did it as near as I possibly could to the instructions in the recipe that I showed.
Right, that's fine. I've just dyed madder with rhubarb leaves, and I was just wondering if there was a difference.
The rhubarb leaves might give you a slight difference in colour because of the oxalic acid. If you've used the actual rhubarb leaves, they will give a slight yellowing to the cloth yarn beforehand. So that will slightly orange your colour a bit.
Right, that's fine. It came out a nice rust colour actually. Oh, that's good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I've just taken the PowerPoint off for a bit, Debbie,
Yeah, that's
because I
fine,
wanted
that's
to
fine.
see it in see the pan in all its glory. There are a few more questions on chat if John can field them. There's a few there.
Okay. Can you do multiple layers of dye for a deeper red? You can put it back in if you want. Yes, if you're not happy with the colour, then yes, you can definitely go back in and get a darker colour. Or you can go into a different red. Brazil wood was sometimes used to support the colour if they were doing kermes, because kermes was such an expensive dye. So they'd use Brazil wood as a base colour because it was a really rich colour. And then they didn't have to use so much of the kermes afterwards. Nice camera work, John. So is it red or brown? Did the Plictho thing not say it's red after rinsing? It did say it's red after rinsing. It is definitely not brown. I don't know if you can see that. It is definitely not brown. It's slightly orangey. It's not as red as I would hope it would go. I have had a deeper red, but then it's not rinsed yet and it's not been into the full half an hour.
About iron. Is iron used in wood staining? Is it used for textiles?
Yes, it can be used in textiles. It's how you would get a black, or it's one of the ways they would get black. Unfortunately, iron is not good for your fabric, for your fibres. So it will rot them if you use too much of it. But iron and tanning is certainly one of the principal ways of getting a black. That was close. Okay, that appears to be that. Yes, the pan I'm using is what I would use on a living history site. It's a Maslin pan, a type of brass, isn't it?
Copper alloy.
Copper alloy. And I tend to use these, A, because they're very easy, and they're the most neutral. They used pots, they used iron pans, they used copper. And one of the things I like to do when I'm doing historical dyeing is a test between a copper pan and a stainless steel pan, so that you can see how the metal that leaches into the water, if any leaches into the water, can affect the colour of your fibres. So that's an interesting thing to do. But using the copper alloy like this is the most neutral that we can get. iron will definitely sadden if you use an iron pan. So it will dull your colour down. If you've got a yellow in there, it will go browny or greeny tones. If you've got a red in, it will definitely go much browner or purpler. Iron will make something like cochineal go a purpley shade. So. And 2 more questions.
So can I ask, you got various bits of cloth in that pan. See, I know what I'm talking about here. And they're different colours. You might have explained this already, Debbie, because I've been fussing
Sorry,
around.
that's
But
all right.
why are they, we've got like different shades in the pan. Is there a reason for that?
Talking about your I think she's seeing your madder sack.
You've got a bag full of madder.
Ah, got
That's
it.
in
Yes.
cotton.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's one thing that's
Uh-huh.
coloured. The pan itself is getting stained around the edges here, and then the piece of cloth is dyeing here.
Got
So
it.
you are seeing different colours there, but it's because cotton and wool will take the colour differently.
Right.
And actually the muslin that I've made the bag out of hasn't been mordanted at all, so will wash out pretty much when I take the madder out, so I can reuse it again and again, but it will take on colour whilst it's in the dye bath.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you.
Deb.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, as that, I have an ongoing love-hate relationship with madder.
Hello, Deborah.
I was just wondering, with the, you know, I've decided that water is very important, and depending on the whether there's a lot of lime or whatever in the water, it affects the colour that you get with madder.
Yeah.
So would there have been specific areas in the country where they would have been known for making good reds, as opposed to other
Yes.
areas where you couldn't get a decent red?
Absolutely. So Stroudwater Scarlet was definitely very famous, and that was madder, and that was dyed in the Stroud area, and that became the army coats for the royalists, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
okay.
But yes, very much so. In fact, in the medieval period, towns were licensed for specific colours because of
You got
the
the one red.
what?
Red coats for the royalists?
Yeah.
For Parliament, maybe.
No, I'm sorry. I was in a royalist regiment, and I wore cherry red.
Didn't mean to start a fight.
That's normal.
So you were saying there were specific towns would be known for specific colours?
Yes. So if I said to you Lincoln, what colour would you think of?
Green.
Yes. Coventry?
Red?
Blue,
No, blue.
blue,
True as Coventry blue.
yeah.
York was scarlet. Scarlet and grey, I think, actually, York. Lincoln also did scarlet, because there's a debate about whether actually Lincoln green is Lincoln green or Lincoln grey. Yeah,
It sounds like PhD.
Malcolm said Stroudwater Scarlet is the original colour of the British Army. Yes, I thought it was. Alan says red for either side. Yes. You see. Hard water, yes. Hard water areas are definitely important. I'm surprised I'm not going redder, because the water here is so hard, we have to double filter it to make a cup of tea. So, but yes, if you use soft water, you definitely don't get a red as easily, and you have to add in chalk or bran or lime. What are you looking at? Time. It is 1959. Yes. So, oh, we're going back to the other one now. Okay. He likes, John's got new game. It's called Let's Play with the Cameras. We're actually going to end up with 3 cameras, so we can do one above, one from this angle and one from that angle. So, and he's got a gadget that links them all together. So you're being tested. You're the trial guinea pigs on whether, not entirely, no, it's already been used once, but not with 3 cameras. So does anybody else have any questions, or are we about there on time? Silence. Where is here? Oh, where is here? Here is northern France. We're in the Flanders area of France. They used to grow madder about 6 miles away from where we are, in a place called Vieilles-Édain, and they had a madder mill there. So I'm very much in the right area. And we have flax growing everywhere around us. Tell John I need the same gizmo, please.
Sorry?
Malcolm needs the same gizmo, please. Can I ask what the type of pan is that you're using again? Oh, maslin. I called it a maslin. It's a copper alloy.
Jam making pan.
So, yeah, it's just a jam making pan basically.
Pick them up in antique shops.
Yeah, lots of them in antique shops. I actually have another one in the kitchen that I use to make jam in as well.
So I reckon we're out of time, aren't we?
I think we're about there, yeah.
Yeah.
What's it?
You have died on screen there.
I have. I can go.
Well done, Debbie.
Oh, I haven't taken my cloth out now. My half an hour's up. There you go.
Well done.
A beautiful
It's
red.
not brown, and it's boiled all the time, pretty much. Although it seems to be fading off. I think the gas bottle's running out.
That's a lovely red.
It is. Thank you, Debbie,
Very
for that.
pretty.
We all appreciate. I'm sure that's a great insight for people that really are hot on what shade and what colour it is, particularly the different areas that had different colours.